welcome to the show. It's a daytime vibe, DC purple, let the positivity drive. Catching up on the highlights, what's new, what's real, flowing through the moments, that's our ideal. Grab your drink, let's unwind. In this space, good time find. Daytime pop-up, we're loud and we're free. With DCT, the purple diva, cup with me, catching all the good. In this vibrant space, join the fun, come on now, let's embrace. Stories from our lives and the world around. Pop up, chat, hear the joy, feel the sound. From laughter to lessons, all wrapped in a beat. Tune in, stay close, let's vibe on this street. See the love, feel the flow. With every second, watch us glow. Daytime pop-up, we're loud and we're free. With DCT's and purple diva, cup with me, catching all the good. In this vibrant space, join the fun, come on now, let's embrace. Together we rise, thanks for coming by. In this daytime pop-up, we reach for the stars. In this vibrant space, join the fun, come on now, let's embrace.
Hola. Hola. Take that mic.
Stories from our lives and the world around. Pop up, chat, hear the joy, feel the sound. From laughter to lessons, all wrapped in a beat. Tune in, stay close, let's vibe on the
Happy Hump Day,
street.
y'all. All right, we're going to flip over to the
See the
instrumental.
love, feel the flow.
Come on
With
here.
every second,
Say a
watch
few
us
words,
glow.
and then I'm going to go back to work. I'll turn it down a little bit. All right. So, happy Wednesday, Feliz Mercules. Feliz Mercules. And for those who don't always wonder why I'm always talking in both English and Spanish or Spanglish, in my case, for the most of the time, it's because mi familia es afro-cubano and my dad speaks Spanish fluently or fluer. So I'm always working on my Spanish because although I may not speak it fluently, I understand it fluently. And, it's always good to be able to speak it if I need to check somebody who might be saying something crazy because they don't know that I speak Spanish. Or that I guess, because part of my origins is from Cuba, I am considered Hispanic. It just burns some of their bridges that people that are my complexion are also Hispanic. But anyway, that's not what I came on here to talk about. It is lunchtime, y'all. And I am, you know, I've been out here drinking my coffee, and I'm eating a little lunch. So excuse me if you hear the chewing. Hey, pretty chocolate. But just wanted to talk about a couple of things. So if you don't know, over in B sector news, Rico is out, and that is so good because that whole situation was a bunch of BS. You know, I like King Roman news and all, but if you did this, um, like, what was the purpose? I mean, did you not remember that the OG beef sector loves Rico, and it don't matter what's going on? I mean, with his real life situation being as it is, he's gonna always be the underdog, and he's gonna always look like the victim. But he is gonna stand up for himself. I'm gonna give him that because he's a grown man. I tell you that. So, but he's out. Shouts out to Wally and others who, you know, sent help. You know, because that is the problem with some of the things that happen here on this platform. People take things off the platform into situations that are happening in the other part of our life. And I think that's partly because some people need to stop sharing so much of their life. You know, stop sharing so much with strangers on the internet. And I apologize, y'all. I'm eating lunch and talking. But seriously, I think it's time to share less. It's time to share less because look at what happened when you let strangers on the internet into your life. You have the authorities being called on you. And if you're a parent, you have child protective services being called on you. Insane. One of the reasons why I did not start actively doing content on here until my son was over the age of 18. Because who are you going to call? And I know y'all probably hear that phone in the background. Sorry, not sorry. I'm an old fashioned folk. I do have a landline. And is the door open? Hold on. That is so loud, y'all. The door is closed. The door is not even open and it is loud. And it's a scammer call. That's all I get on my landline. I get a lot of those. And it doesn't even matter if you put your phone number on the do not um call register. You have to do that every year, y'all. Do you know that every year you have to put your phone on the do not call register. And if it's a cell phone, you're wasting your time putting your phone on the do not call register because all they do is, call from multiple different numbers. And basically what you have to do is, as those calls come through, the scam likely ones, that thankfully our phones now identify scam likely, just block them. They'll call from another number, but eventually they'll stop calling your number because do not call does not work for cell phone numbers for whatever reason. I don't really think it works for your regular phone. But I'm glad that Rico's out. I don't care what he's doing on YouTube. I don't think it is something that he should be going to jail for. Now, if he allegedly was mistreating his animal, see, again, that's a touchy situation. If it really was going on, that's wrong. But if it wasn't going on and people made assumptions, then yeah. So I don't know if he I don't know if he's going to get his dog back or not. But from what somebody was saying is that in the housing authority places in New York City, you can't have the type of dog that he has. Now I know daggone well you can have a dog in apartments in New York Housing Authority because there are other content creators on this platform that live in housing that is under the housing authority in New York, and they got pets. They got dogs, not dogs that are any type of pit bull mix, which apparently his dog is, but they got dogs. But apparently that particular anything that has pit bull in it, they can't have, which is unfortunate because I'll just say this: pit bulls have gotten a bad reputation because people have misused and abused those animals and made them mean. So, um, because here's something that's interesting. If you go and look under serviced animals for like people who have developmental disabilities, they're one of the dogs that's a good match. Ones that have some of that, you know, for them on it. So, with as sensitive as people on the spectrum are, I don't think that that dog would be a good match if they weren't more of a protector of their owner than anything else. But what do I know? Anyway, moving right along. So, I did drop some content on yesterday in regards to foundational Black Americans. Um, those of us who are the descendants of slaves, um, no longer calling ourselves African American, and that is because there's several reasons for it. But I did a video in regards to it, but there's several reasons for that. Part of it is the majority of us are at least 4 to 5 generations removed from Africa. The second thing is that even if we are able to get our DNA through doing the ancestry, it's going to be a mix because when we came to the Americas, they forced different tribes together. And so we're all mixed together unless by some happenstance you know, the majority of the people in your lineage are coming from, one tribe or another that is currently in that area. Because keep in mind, y'all, where people are today, like Nigeria, you know, Ghana, Ivory Coast, all of those different nations and everything. Keep in mind that the majority of the quote unquote African countries, those names were given to them from Europeans, and many of them did not get their independence until the 20th century. So it's not it there's no telling if, you know, the people that you know, have lineage with on the continent are actually in the same place that they were when 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 your ancestors were taken, you know? But going on in regards to that, you know, another reason is that, there's been, you know, unfortunately, this divide that is going on currently between Black Americans and everybody else who's not Black Americans that also shares the same skin color as us, be they from the Caribbean or be they from the continent. Because unfortunately, there are some people within those groups who have issues with us and play in our faces and think that we're stupid and think that we're lazy when our ancestors built this country. There's almost nothing that you can touch in the United States that we didn't have something to do with, you know? But again, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But these are things that are starting to tick off some people. And I think that we recognize that we are distinctly different from everyone else. Our experience in the diaspora is different from everyone else's. In all the other parts of the diaspora, you know, the majority of their African roots weren't ripped away from them. Their language from the continent was not ripped away from them. They were able to pass down more things. Our ancestors adapted to the place that they were kidnapped to. Our ancestors have trauma in their DNA from the years of being in chattel slavery, being treated less than human, being treated like an animal. And I know everybody keeps telling us to get over it, get over it, get over it. We're not getting over it. That's never going to happen. So, yeah. And it's not us living in the past, it's simply us embracing who we really are and not being ashamed of who we are. We have nothing to be ashamed of because we are the descendants of slaves. The part that they like to erase in history is how many times we fought back and our ancestors fought back trying to get out of the chains of slavery, and how many of our ancestors got themselves out of that. They don't want you to know about all of that. We were not these weak, docile people, but they did do what they had to do to survive so that they would have and so they would have generations behind them, so that there would be something left. But also keep in mind that still we are way behind as 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 a culture in this country because of what was taken from us. Because every time we do what we do and we are successful, they destroy because of their insecurity. Because see, here's the thing. We can survive without them. But even with their quote unquote segregation, with these palm colored only towns that are popping up, they can't survive without us. It's not the other way around. Again, I let me shall I name things that aren't possible without us around the world? Like, I don't know, traffic lights. A black person in the United States made that. hmm Air conditioning, you know, things that make your cell phones work. Anyway, it's too much. The United States would be a desert wasteland without the things that were invented by those who are the descendants of slaves and those who were enslaved. Because some things were done while our ancestors were slaves. And then, too, there were some who were freemen, you know? Yeah. In other words, their ancestors were free before slavery ended. And so they're descendants of freed black people. They existed as well, but they don't want you to know that either. And they didn't all own slaves. Stop that, you know? And when they try to justify it, they don't tell you the fact that in most of the cases, if the black people did own slaves, they owned slaves, they were their own family, and they were protecting them. They were protecting their own daggone family. And as soon as they could safely free them, they did. But anywho, so go check out my upload on my daily thoughts on why foundational Black Americans are not calling themselves African Americans for the most part anymore. Now, this is I know we go through a whole bunch of different things. I even in the video gave examples of how radically things have changed from when my parents were born to the time that my son was born, of how we are listed on birth certificates. I don't think it's gotten to the point where we are putting FBA on birth certificates, but I do know some people don't put African American or had never put African American. They just continued with Black. And I think at this point, you know, Black American, foundational Black American, or just American, because nobody else caveats who they are, you know. And let's not forget that race is a societal construct that originated in this freaking country so that they could distinguish between slaves and free people. There were black people who were considered white at that time because they were not enslaved. Because, there were black people that were in Europe. There were, you know, as we know from things like Bridgerton and whatnot, and just from European history, that there were that Africans had freely moved over into Europe, and some of them were of noble, you know, titles, Queen Charlotte, and all of that was brought to light in Bridgerton. And some of those folks would come over to the Americas, and they would be considered white because they came here from Europe. They they were not part of the enslaved. They were kidnapped. But that's part of history that many people don't talk about. So anyway, take a listen to it. I hope y'all like it. I appreciate the views. I appreciate the views. Moving right along. So I don't normally talk about sports, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit right now. I'm going to talk about it in regards to the Sanders plan. Coach Prime and his son. So this week we were let know by a um, news conference. And hold on, y'all. Sorry, my son is calling me, so I'm gonna go on mute for a second. I'm gonna let y'all listen to the music just for 1 second. Hold on. Well, for a minute. I'll be right back. And if you're watching this on replay, then you can you know scoot through this. No, the replay. Hold on. I'm gonna put it on mute for a second. Hold on. All right, y'all. I'm back. Sorry. See, when my son calls, it hits my. He calls me on my phone, and I'm also monitoring monitoring the chat via my phone. That's how I can see the chat, and it's not up on my computer because I'm actually looking at my work computer because y'all know I'm at work. I'm at work. I just have the luxury of being able to work from home, which is a blessing. It is an absolute blessing. Yeah, that's my work stuff that y'all keep hearing binging in the background. People saying things in chat. They're not talking to me. I'm not ignoring the chat, but because the majority of us are working remotely, people ask questions in the chat. But like I said, I am blessed to be able to work remotely because I am also caregiver for my son, and I have worked remotely since he was 15. I've worked remotely for 15 years, and it's been a blessing. It has been a blessing to be able to do that. checking something in what I'm doing for work right now. Because when my son called, he broke my little concentration over here. But can you imagine, you know, when you're in the office and you really can't have personal calls and you got kids and they don't care about that? Because, I'm gonna tell you, my son is at his day program. He don't give a damn that I'm working. He don't care about that. All he knows is it's his lunchtime, so he calling mom, and that's that. That is that. Okay, so I got what I needed on there, and I am actually moving. One more thing on this. So out of here with my desk, someone else's desk. Okay. Let's see what I got in my still the same. Okay, so now let's get into to Coach Prime and and his his kids. So earlier this week, we found out that Coach Prime had been suffering, what had been diagnosed with bladder cancer, and during this time that we didn't see him, he was going through the process of having his bladder removed and them basically building a new bladder for him from his small intestine, which is, and right now he's cancer free. So that's a blessing in and of itself. But in the disclosure of this, when we see the videos in regards to his journey over on Well Off Media, which is Bucky's YouTube channel, Bucky being Dion Jr., we see Carucci, Tron in there, and it's so now we have the rumors that she and Dion are in a relationship, and it's crazy. I'm assuming that it's true. I don't see neither one of them denying it, but still, um, and so people are busy talking about that aspect instead of talking about the fact that this man, you know, has beat cancer. They're talking about the fact that he's an older man now. Dion is only in his 50s, okay? And isn't she around 40? So, they can't be more than maybe like I think he's in his mid 50s, so she's like early 40s, so maybe 14, 15 years. And yeah, that would be a big thing at a younger if she was younger. But she's been out there for a minute and she's not in her 20s. Um And clearly, if she was one of them ones who was gonna pop out a baby, she didn't have plenty of people to pop out a baby on since Chris Brown. Okay, Chris Brown is the one who she came up on the scene with. Um, is this? Do I think that this is a money grab on her part? I don't really, I don't really know. It seems that she genuinely has a relationship with him. Um, I don't think that she's in it for the money because let's be clear, Dion doesn't share his money with nobody. I don't think that he was sharing a whole bunch of money with Tracy Edmonds when she was with him for all them years. Of course, she was the ex-wife of, you know, Babyface, and it had been in relationship with Eddie Murphy between getting with, you know, Dion. So yeah, and you know, it could be a money grab. One can only tell, but I mean, it's not like they married or anything. I'm like, y'all thought he was talking to Roxy a few months ago, and he wasn't. And do I think that Karuchi might be a little young for him? Yeah, I think she might be a little young for him. I maybe somebody in their mid 40s to late 40s would probably be a better choice. But it's not my business, and who cares what I think and what you think when it comes to who he chooses to spend his time with. I mean, his kids are all grown and almost gone. I think he's got one, you know, his youngest daughter, and I think she just transferred from Colorado to somewhere else. So the only one that hanging tight up to him is his oldest son. You know, which is not a surprise because you know him and Bucky are real tight. He's tight with all his kids. But what was surprising when he made his announcement in regards to everything on early this week was is that he had not told his kids. The only one of his kids that knew what was really going on was Bucky. The rest of his kids didn't really know what was going on. They had no idea how serious it was. Also, his the team and the coaching staff didn't know. He kept all of that under wraps all of this time until he came out here and he can stand in front of us. Not to mention that, he's sharing stuff about the fact that he has to, you know, deal with the pens, which is wow. But, you know, there's a whole lot of folks that are in that same age range as him and older that got to deal with incontinence, leaky bladders and whatnot, sneeze, come out, you know, or can't get to the bathroom quick enough, whatever. Um, but in addition to that, he plugged the pins. And do y'all know that he he got a brand endorsement with the pins now? I think that is hilarious, y'all. I think that that is hilarious. That's hilarious. But do I think we need to be all up in his business as to who he's dating right now? No. I think we just should just pray that that man, that he stays healthy and that he stays cancer free. That's what I think we should be doing, and minding our business in regards to that. Because again, 55, and he might not even be 55. I don't even know if he's that old, but he's in his 50s. And somebody in their 40s, that's not a big deal when at that point. It's a bigger deal when you're talking about somebody in their 40s dealing with somebody in their 20s. But Karuchi has lived some life at this particular point, and maybe she just wants to be with somebody who, you know, there's not any drama with, you know, going to treat her like a decent human being. She's not going to be getting knocked between the washer and dryer, etc. Maybe that's what she's looking for. I mean, again, she's 40. I don't think there's any biological clock ticking because, as we know, he just had, surgery. So, and and he's still working on that working. Because I mean, hey, the bladder is tied to that same apparatus. Mm, Okay, I don't. It's lunchtime. I don't need to say anymore. I don't need to say anymore. But moving on, rumor has it that the GM of the Cleveland Browns has been fired, and he is turning out to be the scapegoat in the Shador Sanders situation. We all know that Shador Sanders was drafted in the fifth round, which didn't make any sense, and it was clear to anybody that wasn't blind that this was a message to him and his family, but really it was to Deion Sanders because they're so. It's like the wild thing is that when someone who's palm colored from the that's an NFL legend, you know, moves, grooms their children to come into the NFL, nobody says a daggone thing. For their children to be elite athletes like themselves. And the fact that these children walk that walk and talk that talk, they can't stand that because they're not palm colored. They're, my complexion, you know, or highly melanated because Deion Sanders is a dark skinned man. Okay. And although, you know, the the majority of the women that he has been with are fairer skinned, he's some of his kids are dark skinned. Shador is. And Shador has that same kind of magnetism that his dad had. And they don't like that. They can't stand the fact that that this boy doesn't need the NFL or the money or anything. He's good financially. I'm like, he's making most of his money. He's making millions upon millions upon millions from his branding. He's making more money from that than he is from playing football. Because, it's really about, showing him. But the GM has been fired. Um, and all of this BS that is going on in the NFL is being exposed. I mean, do we forget what Colin Kaepernick did, and Colin Kaepernick is not even fully, okay? He's half, and he knows that. But when he did that documentary on what was really going on, and when you think about it, as far as the draft and how they're doing it's just that, because the majority of the players in the NFL are black men, and they're looking at them in the same way that they looked at them when they were being sold in the markets during slavery. Just took a drink of my coffee. They're looking at them the same daggone way. It's crazy. But I do think, just poured me some more. I do think that you can't dim someone's talent. Shador Sanders is a talented young athlete. And even if you only give him a couple of minutes of play, he's going to shine in them couple of minutes. And you can't make that not happen. They want to break this young man for whatever reason. They tried to do the same thing with the Williams sisters when they were breaking into tennis. They tried to break those little girls when they were young girls before they got to be, adults and elite athletes. This is a thing that they do with us. Because think about how they tried to treat Angel Reese in comparison to Caitlin Clark. It's not our fault that we're natural athletes for the most part. It's not our fault. Y'all did that. Y'all did that. Y'all did that by breaking our backs in those fields with our ancestors. Y'all did that. That's why we are who we are. Think about it. The majority of the sprinters in track are people of color who are the elite, the fastest, people of color from within the diaspora. The ones who were kidnapped. Be they have gone to the island, or be they have come here to Los Estados Unidos. And then when you look at the long distance runners, those are those on the continent. And that's because of the continent, the arid, dry heat, and how they're able to run those long distances in that hot desert climate that again are there because of all of the resources that were stolen from Africa. Africa would not have these huge arid parts of it where there's no water if it hadn't been for the colonization and the stealing of the natural resources. But I digress. So let's see what's going to happen now that they have gotten rid of the general manager with the Cleveland Browns. using him as the scapegoat. However, it's coming out, now the owner is trying to say, well, he's the one who won it, who pulled him in the fifth round. Um, that the owner is denying that it was he who forced it. So, you know, all I know is that either you're gonna play Shador or let him go. Stop playing these games. This makes the entire National Football League look horrendous. And then there's rumors out there that the owner of the Cleveland Browns is simply situating the team so that he can sell them. Are we going to end up with Cleveland not having a team again after Jim Brown went through all that to make sure that Cleveland had a team again? Now, the people of Cleveland want Shador to be there, but they also want him to be played. I mean, what are y'all doing? I'm just wondering. So I guess we're going to see. We'll see what's going to happen. We'll see what's going to happen. Whew. I'm telling y'all, been a lot going on though. Been a lot going on this week. People are, you know, did y'all see that 47 is out here saying that Beyonce owes $11 million for for an endorsement that she was imaginarily paid by the Democratic Party, even though that's fake news. But it seems that 47 likes fake news when it's in his best interest. And I think he's just doing this crap right now to try to distract from the Epstein files. Because I sure would like to see what's in those Epstein files, especially since you're in there and you've known that you were in there since May. But you knew you were in there in the first place, sir. And all of these distractions, everything that you put up there, all these stupid stuff that we know is fake news, stop it, sir. Either put up or shut up, sir. Stop it. It's like people want to see those Epstein files. I mean, I didn't really care that much about it because, but I figure, since you're putting out JFK and Martin Luther King stuff we already knew, we stop it. Let's see the stuff that we don't know. We don't want to see it 40 years from now when you're dead and gone. We want to see it now. And even your MAGA folks want to see it, sir. Even your MAGA folks want to see that. We all do. Oh, I'm telling y'all, you just got to wonder about this country that we're in. You really have to wonder about this country that we are in. But I'm not fixing to move to Africa because my family has been in this country for the last at least 300 to 400 years. Where the F am I going over there? My son is on the autism spectrum. The kind of services that he needs in his life, at least right now, I can get them here. The continent is sorely lacking in services and things for treatments for those on the spectrum, even though allegedly there are more people with autism on the continent than any place else in the world, which would make sense because, the continent is really, really big. It's not this little tiny thing that they seem to think. And, I don't know. There's a lot more people over there. There's more people that have it over there than there are that have it here in this country. Isn't that funny? Mm. Anyway, I'm getting ready to get out of here. Spend my daytime pop up. I'm finished running my mouth, rambling on, just getting out what I needed to say. But before I get off of here, what did y'all do to rile up Jill's comfort zone? Because Jill was mad this morning. She was just like, what the? She was, I've never seen Jill get like that. Don't be ruffling Jill's feathers, you know? Because, like, hey, I may be on the west side, but I'm a DC girl. I'm not from the West Coast. And so, I stay in my namaste because I don't have time for all that mess. I'm a senior citizen. But what you see on here is what you get. Okay? I'm not different off of here than I am on here. I'm a boss in real life and I act accordingly when I'm on here. But anyway, y'all, I'm out of here. I don't know, I may be back on tomorrow. I'm probably not going to be on tonight, but I have at least one more uh vlog upload before the end of the month that will be coming between today and tomorrow because tomorrow's the last day of the month. But until the next time, I offer you guys peace and blessings from the west side. I'm out. And of course, when I come on at night, y'all know I'm on camera then, but I'm at work right now. So let's let's get it going. I'm out. I'll see y'all. Bye. Peace.